Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to talk about whether time blocking is actually useful or not. So time blocking is a very popular technique that's used within the study, productivity and just overall work-life balance field, and a lot of people use this to manage their time better. I am now juggling a lot of different things at the same time because I'm working, studying, trying to learn new skills and working on a side project as well. So I thought I would try out time blocking to see if it would work for me. And I have a few takeaways after using it for a few weeks. I think this video will be useful for you if you are struggling to manage your time, or if you are wondering whether time blocking will work, but you can't be bothered to set up a new fancy colourful calendar beforehand. This video will give you a few pros and cons as well as tips on how to utilise time blocking if you are using it in your calendar. Let's get started. So I've got 3 quick reasons as to why I think time blocking is useful. Reason number 1 as to time blocking is useful is that you have motivation to do a particular task because you can see it in your calendar. You can see the words in your calendar to do that particular thing. This is a very important point because a lot of the time we come up with all of these different tasks and goals we want to achieve and we want to do, but it's hard to actually do them if you're not constantly reminded that you need to do this thing. So let's say you are trying to learn a new language and you said at the beginning of this year, this is something that you would aim to do by the end of the year. There's one thing to say you want to achieve this goal, but to actually dedicate specific time to learn that new language is a whole nother task. And if during the day, we're busy with all of these different things, if we're working, if we're studying, something like learning a new language, for example, spending 30 minutes doing some French, that might not be something that is a priority for that particular day. But if you put it in your calendar, even if it's not every day, if you know, okay, for these 3 days of the week, I'm going to make sure to study a bit of French, it just motivates you to actually see it there so you know it's something that you genuinely need to do. So reason number 2 as to why I think time blocking is useful is because you begin to realize if you're being realistic with your time or not. And then if you realize that you're not being realistic with your time, you can adjust maybe all of the different things that you have decided to do, or you can adjust how you spread out all of the tasks you need to do, for example, in a given week. Sometimes we falsely assume that we have an immense amount of time and we can do 5 million different things. For example, at the beginning of this new year, there were about 6 or 7, 8 things I really wanted to focus on, but I've realized that I just don't have all of the time to do everything because there are only so many hours in a week where I am awake and I have the capacity to do these different tasks. So when you time block your calendar, you basically know how much time you are dedicating to different things, or how much time you intend to dedicate to different things. So for example, if let's say you were trying to gain the qualification by the end of the year, but you were only dedicating like 2 hours a week to this specific qualification, then you can begin to realize that, oh, actually, maybe I need to dedicate more of my time, for example, into studying this qualification rather than learning this new language or trying to get better at this sport or learning how to, for example, program. Just blocking it into different sections helps you to realize what you're actually trying to dedicate time to. And then you will realize that, oh, actually, maybe it's not realistic for me to try and gain 5 or 6 different new skills in just 1 year. So reason number 3 as to why I think time blocking is useful is that it makes you very disciplined in how you manage your time, and this helps in other areas of life. So as I said earlier, we all come up with all of these different goals that we want to achieve, but it's easy to kind of fall off the tracks and try and do something else when something gets hard, or maybe you don't even realize that you can't concentrate on a particular task for a certain amount of time. So time blocking helps you to actually see how much time are you really dedicating to this specific thing. So for example, I'm currently learning a lot of maths at the moment, and there are different intervals of the day where I might block a 2 or 3 hour block in my calendar just to dedicate it to maths. Before I use the time blocking system, I would say I'm going to study some maths for 2 or 3 hours, but a lot of that time would be used for maybe scrolling on my phone or standing up and walking around to do something else, maybe looking at a few emails when a particular proof gets very hard. But when you are time blocking, you remember that this time is dedicated to, for example, doing maths. So I can't say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go and cook my dinner and spend an hour in the kitchen doing that, for example. So you blocking out the time in your calendar makes you disciplined and helps you to remember what you actually need to be focusing on. So those are the 3 reasons why I think time blocking is useful. Before I talk about the reasons why I don't think it's useful, I think it'll be beneficial just to quickly explain what time blocking actually is. So I know I said earlier that it's just a productivity and basically scheduling tool that a lot of people use to manage the time. But to actually understand how it works, let's say you have a calendar. That's what most people use. Some people might use a piece of paper as well, or some sort of scheduling system, but a calendar is the most common thing. If you have 5 or 6 different things, maybe projects or types of learning initiatives that you are working on for, let's say, the given year, then you basically block your time each day so you know what different things you'll be working on. Some people go to the extreme of also blocking out other things in their life that they also do. So for example, some people might block the time that they maybe go to the gym, the time that they have to cook dinner, the time that they have to hoover their house. You can basically decide how specific you want it to be. But I have seen some people also make the time blocks quite vague and might just say, maybe during this period, I'm traveling to work. This period, I'm working. This period, I'm studying something for 3 hours. This period, I am resting for maybe 2 hours. But you're basically literally just blocking the time that you have in a given day with all of the different tasks that you need to do. So now to talk about my 3 reasons why I don't think time blocking is very useful. So reason number 1, which is what I realized at the beginning, is that creating this calendar, this time blocking calendar, and also maintaining it can be a very tedious task to do. So the method that I used to create my time block calendar was to write down the different things that I wanted to work on, write down the percentages of I guess the time that I had to spend on these things. And then afterwards, I would basically calculate how many hours that would equate to in the week. And then I would split my time up accordingly. But this was quite a long task because I had to work out all of the different things that I needed to do. I had to color code all the time blocks and just going through different weeks, creating recurring occurrences in the calendar. It's a very long thing to do, and also to maintain it takes quite a while as well. So you might think that actually is not very useful to use this system because you have to constantly amend things if things change. And what I've also been doing is that if I don't end up fulfilling that specific time block, I will amend it. So when I look back at the calendar, I know how much time I've actually spent on that task versus how much time I want to spend on that task. So for example, when it comes to studying maths, if I've said that I'm going to spend 3 hours in the afternoon doing it, but I only end up spending 2, then I will amend that block to make it 2, to also not deceive myself on how much I'm actually working on that particular task. But all of this takes some time, which can be a waste of time sometimes. So reason number 2 as to why I don't think time blocking is that useful is because it can feel a bit pointless and degrading if you're not actually following the different time blocks. So sometimes if you're too specific, it can become very hard to actually follow the things that you said you were going to do in a particular day. And it's easy to slip for the whole day, for example, even if you just miss one specific block, because what I was realizing is that sometimes I would miss one specific block to do something. Let's say I need to record a YouTube video, and then I would end up doing that maybe 2 hours later. But it means that the thing that I was supposed to be doing 2 hours later would either also need to be pushed down or to be pushed to another day. And then if I get to the end of the day and realize I haven't done everything, or I've hardly done anything, then it means that I have to move things around, or I've just missed that block completely. And sometimes it can feel like, oh, this was a bit of a waste of time, because you feel really guilty for not completing that specific thing. So in a way, guilt can sometimes be good because it motivates you to keep doing that particular thing. But if it happens constantly, where you're constantly not maintaining and you're constantly not completing those time blocks, then it can feel quite hard to try and just, I don't really know how to explain it. I feel like if you have used time blocking, then you'll kind of know what I'm talking about, because it's just a certain feeling of not feeling like you've achieved that thing that you wanted to do. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it motivates you to keep on going. So the third reason why time blocking might not be that useful is because there are some things in your life that just can't be moved around. And there are also some things in your life that are very unpredictable, so you can't put them in your calendar. And that might cause things to be messed around, or things that need shuffling around, which also links back to the points that I mentioned earlier. So if there's a particular family or work commitment that you have, that is probably not something that you would have been able to predict that would have happened. So that might have to take over the whole time blocking that you have done. So sometimes it feels like it's just defeated the whole purpose of time blocking in the first place. But I mean, in life, you can't control everything that happens. Sometimes these important things will need to override the whole day, the whole week, the whole month even, and there's nothing you can do about it. But it just makes you feel like it was a bit pointless doing the time blocking in the first place. So I'm going to give you 3 quick points of how to make time blocking meaningful. And I've written them here on my laptop, so I'm going to read them to you. The first thing that you need to do to make time blocking useful, because by the way, I still use time blocking. I just think there are times where it feels like it's a waste of time, but I think you should at least try it to see if it works. So the first way of how you can make time blocking useful is to regularly revisit your schedule to ensure it's realistic. There's no point of having millions of blocks and not fulfilling any of them. So I would say, as I said, amend your different blocks after you've done it if you haven't fulfilled that specific time. So maybe after the week or the fortnight, you can look back to see, what have I actually been able to achieve? And if you've realized that every single day you haven't fulfilled all of the blocks, then obviously you can see that you'll probably need to amend the future blocks so it can be consistent and realistic. Because there's no point of spending time creating a 12-hour time blocking calendar and not fulfilling that and not utilizing it to its best potential. So point number 2 of the time blocking system, a way to make it useful, is to leave room for adjustments. A mistake that I made at the beginning was to try and fill out every single time that was available in my calendar, which meant that every minute of my time was dedicated to a particular time block. And even though this can be a very important way and a very beneficial way of blocking out your time and maintaining discipline, sometimes if we do this too much, then it just means that you're basically defeating the whole purpose of the system, because as I said earlier, if a commitment or something comes up that you can't control, you will have to shuffle things around anyways. So if you are leaving time in your calendar for things that might come up that you're not aware of, it means that you can basically maintain the time blocking system without having to change too many things. And sometimes it's not just even about adding new blocks of time in your calendar for room, but also just maybe having bigger gaps for some of the tasks that you do. So for example, something that I'm trying to do more of this year is play tennis. And even though the session itself might only be an hour to 2 hours, I have to leave time in my calendar to also travel to and from the courts as well. So this is things like when it comes to traveling to places or having buffer times, for example, if you're cooking or if you're going to a particular place, just making sure that you have time to go to and from these different places, so you're not using every single minute of your time. Because what happens if you get stuck in traffic? What happens if you need to go to a different shop? You can't maintain an 100% time blocking system. I don't think it's ever going to work. And the last tip that will help to make time blocking a useful thing is to leave breaks, leave room for breaks, lunches, time for travel, as I said before, but mostly lunches and breaks. If you leave time for this, then it means that you actually have time to rest. It's easy to think that, oh, you know what, I don't need a lunch break, I don't need time to rest, and just put millions of things in your calendar. But that's where you will end up just doing these breaks during other periods, which will mess up the calendar. So basically, this all comes back down to making sure that you're being realistic, having some time in your calendar to do different things, and also understanding that different things might impact your life that will change the rhythm of what you're supposed to be doing. But that's it for this video, guys. Just a quick conversation about time blocking and how you might or might not find it useful. But I hope you found this video useful regardless. So let me know how your time blocking journey goes. I'm going to keep using time blocking for a bit longer. And if it doesn't work, then I might try and do something else. But right now it's been quite good. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.